Packages and Designs, and I would like to give the word to Per Segerbrand, who is host for our Honorary Doctorate.
Thank you. I met Professor Sharon Kolb briefly at a visit at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater some years ago. But I have not worked with her, neither have I acquainted me with her work. But since Thursday, I have the pleasure of being around her, meeting her. And you know, sometimes you directly feel that this is some very, very special person. I immediately saw that Professor Kolb, Sharon, is a very intelligent, extremely engaged, and extraordinary warm person. So now I'm very eager to get acquainted with her work. I'm proud to present Honorary Dr. Sharon Kolb.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, well, welcome. I'm so excited to be here. Today I'm going to be talking about international collaboration in higher education and really what this journey has done for me. And that's why when I talked about this, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. And back in 2007, I had a faculty, a colleague, ask me, Sharon, would you like to go to Sweden with me? And I said, sure, why not? It'd be a great experience. Well, it's been 16 years later, and I'm still working with Sweden and collaborating and making connections. And also, so much of this has happened because of the influences and influencers in my life. Malcolm Gladwell, he's one of my favorite authors. He wrote the book Tipping Point, and he talks about infectious behavior. And he also talks about how that can make change. So again, by just meeting some key people, and just by saying yes in 2007, I'm here today. How incredible is that? And that journey of all the people that I've met along the way because of connections. So Gladwell talks about 3 types of categories. He talks about mavens, connectors, and salespeople. And one of the things is when we talk about mavens, these are people that are like experts in their field. And we know people like this. They collect information, they share ideas, and they accumulate a lot of knowledge. So last night at the reception, I was actually talking to my friend Par. And I was like, you know what? You're a maven. This guy has all kinds of expertise in so many different areas. So I know if I need to go and get some information, especially about Umea and the history of Umea, Par is my person. He's awesome. Then there's connectors, people that bring you together. And that if you meet somebody, then it leads to something else. So when I first met in 2007, actually I came back in 2008 again, and it was Karina Runquist at the time. And she said, would you like to meet some people in special education in your field? I said, well, sure, that would be wonderful. So I sat down and I had a lunch with Savia Maria Coppa and Annika Bercliffe. And that began a partnership of doing research here at the university. And we began to do studies and teaching. So now I met, Karina was a connector. She put people in and getting us organized. And then that led to meeting Helena. So I have, and she is a fantastic connector working with the international office. And then there's the salespeople, people that find an idea, a cause, and something that they believe in. And part of this is what I did, because after that, I went back to the university and I'm like, my gosh, we have, this Umea University is really neat. It's really a great university. There's wonderful people, and we need to do more with them. And I would like some support to go there and do more work and research. And then I was able to do my sabbatical here and do some research. So again, you look at these influencers. So what type of influencer are you? And you may identify with one or more of these categories. And sometimes we kind of move in each of these different categories, right? But if you like to share ideas and stories, you may be a maven. If you like to introduce friends to other friends, you may be a connector. And if you enjoy to tell everybody about the newest product or the greatest idea, you may be a salesperson. Now, how does this lead to education? As an educational leader interested in international collaboration, it's important to know about yourself and what your skills are. And then you can connect with people that may be the maven, the salesperson, or somebody that's a stronger connector. So we really need to, and this is one of the things that when you are beginning to lead and branch out into leadership, it's real important to find out who these people are and what your strengths are and who you are. So by these experiences, I believe that the mavens, connectors, and salespeople in my life created possibilities. So that was one big piece. Now the other very important part of my research and what I've been doing here is that we have an exchange program. And we have students from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. They come and they do practice teaching here in the Swedish schools. And that has been, for me, life-changing and life-changing for our students. So yes, I've had my research, I've done service here, but really, in education, the reason why we're here is for our students. So one of the things that I did is when the students first started going, I'm like, you know, this is kind of interesting. You know, what their perspectives are before they leave, and also when they come back. What have they gained? And I used to do just like a little survey, you know, like tell me about your most important thing. What did you learn? What did you like? But then as I was doing more research with global education, I came across the MyCap. And the MyCap is a survey that basically, I'm gonna drink water here, that looks at exploring global context, different cultures, knowing ourselves as cultural beings, and then looking at kind of what is really happening with us as students are progressing. So, examining the impact, one of the major questions was, how does student teaching abroad influence teachers' global awareness, as well as their practices in the classroom? So, the first question, how do you define global citizenship? And we asked our students this, and I had a survey, and there was a Likert scale, and it's like, do you consider yourself a global citizen? And then also, what strategies would you use? Well, it's interesting because, of course, you know, we had the students that were going, it was the semester right before they were going to become teachers, and they come here. Well, we gave them the pretest, and I asked them, you know, how do you rate yourself as a global citizen? Well, how do you think they rated themselves? Very high. Of course they were very global. You know, they're going to go out and change the world. And they had all this education, right? And they were so knowledgeable. So they rated themselves quite high when they first left. Now, the interesting thing is when they came back, I gave them the post-test. And then they didn't rate themselves so high after their experience here, which is incredible when you think about that. Some of them, and I'll give you some of the responses, and I'll share. So here's one of the students. It says, a global citizen, because we asked, define it. A global citizen explicitly attempts to understand and know issues and events that are happening in the world. I do consider myself a global citizen. However, I am not as global as I probably should be. This was the post-test. Now, before they left, they had a really wonderful, I think it was like a Google or Wikipedia definition of what a global citizen is, because there were no constraints on how they could answer their questions, okay? So it was because they didn't have the experience. But after they came back, then they were more reflective and realized, you know what, maybe I have a little bit to learn. The other one, a student put, a global citizen is a person who seeks knowledge about other parts of the world and considers their individual impact to others. I consider myself a global citizen. But see, the emphasis has kind of changed here on how they were looking about their connection to the world. And again, student reflection after they came to Sweden. And you know, the importance of that. Now, this is kind of a long one, but I really like this because a student explicitly talked about Whitewater and Umea. Defining a global citizen as someone who belongs to several varieties and a variety of countries throughout the world. I can compare and contrast Umea and Wisconsin. But I'm unable to consider myself a complete global citizen because of my inexperience about other countries. I hope I will have more challenges to explore other states in the United States, as well as other countries in the world. Now let's talk a little bit about the demographics of the students that are in Whitewater. A lot of the students are first generation college students. That's who we attract. A lot of these students, as you can see even in this comment, have not really traveled outside of the state of Wisconsin. And not to even mention traveling abroad or to a different country. So when you start looking at this and the experiences, a lot of these students, and I still connect with the students. We have a Facebook page, it's called Sweden Student Abroad. Helena knows about that. And actually probably some of you are friends, but I'll add you at some time, it's real easy. But the students in there, we stay connected and we talk about it. And the amount of travel that occurs after this one experience multiplies so much. They get a taste of it. And not only that, but a lot of times I met with students and their parents, because their parents were really concerned about them coming to this country, you know. And one of the things is, I mean, Sweden is a great place for students to visit. So, I mean, as far as their parents were like, is it safe? You know, will I be able to navigate? And, you know, so again, this university has gone to, I would say, great extremes to really make our students feel comfortable. And so I was able to meet with parents, talk with parents and say, yes, I have my full confidence that your students will be okay. Our students, your children. So. Then, here's another one. I believe a global citizen is aware of current issues happening around the world. They can speak knowledgeably about the opinion and issues concerning the world. I do not consider myself a global citizen because I cannot speak about the issues concerning the world with knowledge. Now again, this particular student rated themselves very high in global awareness before they left. And then they came back and it's like, wow, there's a lot happening out there. And all of this because coming to Sweden and teaching for 4 weeks. Now imagine what that's done as far as their impact in the classroom. So I have one more here. A global citizen is a person that understands and recognizes their connection to the world outside of their immediate surroundings. I consider myself a global citizen. And then for the sake of time, I'm going to just move on. I'll skim over these. Being a member of the community they're talking about, and then also knowledgeable in global issues. And I've also lived in England and traveled, so the students are saying, you know, I'm getting a better idea and opening. Now my next aspect was, now that you realize that maybe you're not as global as you thought you were, what would be some strategies that you would implement as a teacher in your classroom to help other students become more global and to make an impact with culture? So again, before the students left, they had wonderful answers, but they were from the textbook. They weren't connected to real life experiences. You'd read them, they were perfect, all right? But there was no connection whatsoever to what they were going to be doing. So they had, oh yeah, sure, I would do this, this, and this. Now, when they came back, they had some really great strategies. I think the best thing to do is understand the students' culture. If you understand their culture and their perspective, you can teach in a more culturally responsive way. Now again, remember, these are pre-service teachers, that this is their semester right before they go out into the field. And they're having this awareness and the impact that they will have on future students and future generations, right? Because of this experience. Also, remain open-minded. Learn about the cultural backgrounds of my students. Avoid generalization and assumptions, all right? Now, these are things that it's like, I'm like, I can't, they're coming up with this. These are their answers internalized, their self-reflection, all right? Talk to students and make them aware of differences and similarities in cultures. I will make my classroom a learning community. These are our future teachers. So sometimes I get a little discouraged in the fact of, you know, education, and we want our students, and discouraged that it's like, it's difficult to be a teacher these days. It's difficult. There's a lot of challenges. But when I see students responding this way, it gives me unbelievable hope for the future. And really what we're doing here at the university, right? So I get to know my students and their families, different cultural backgrounds. So I'm able to effectively communicate and teach based on their interest, values, and the best of my abilities. And realizing there is a direct connection between what they know about themselves and about their global awareness and how that will impact their teaching. This excites me quite a bit. So, in summary, these comments show that students are thinking about who they are as global citizens and how that influences their teaching. Now, we've talked about this in classes, and we talked about it even before they left. But because of experiences such as these international collaborations, it comes to life for them. It brings about a new meaning. And you know what? You can't create that unless you have those experiences. And then they bring it home. And the thing is, after this, they share. And they're like, you need to do this. And then they're the ones that are sharing with other teachers and new teachers. And so it spreads. Their international experiences are shaping how they create strategies to effectively teach students from different cultural backgrounds. And it's so important now because we have such a diverse student population. And how can we really connect and create that community like one of those students shared before? And then international collaboration can mold, change, and enhance our perspectives and create numerous possibilities. So again, back in 2007, somebody asked if I wanted to go to Sweden. I said yes. And then all of this unfolded because of the connectors, the salespeople, and the mavens in my life. So again, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharon. There are time for questions. Is someone who wants to reflect or make a question? Justin.
Thank you very much, so interesting. Do you think your results might be a little affected by Wisconsin and Sweden being quite similar in terms of mentality or little cultural similarities? Would it be different if they had gone to Rome or?
Well, and see, and you know, that's an excellent question because we have a program in Ecuador and we also have another program in Jamaica. And so when the students, what we found, and it was, we had some, we didn't have as many students or the population that took the assessment, but the ones that did, we found still that even though the cultures were very different, and there is a similarity obviously with Sweden and Wisconsin, but students still rated themselves very high, very knowledgeable before they left. And then after they came back, they had more of an awareness of like, I might not have the knowledge about different cultures that I really thought I did. So that would be, and so we saw that consistently with those 3 different programs that we had. So. Any other questions? Yes?
Curiosity question, does your curriculum for teacher education expect you to formally to introduce these dimensions into the experience of the students, or is it something those universities chose to do?
When we started exploring, we had a our assistant dean that was very interested in internationalizing our curriculum. And so that was one of the things where I started looking at the MyCap, and we were exposed to that and exploring. That was from NASFA too. So the national, what is it, international?
Yeah, good question. I'm not
Okay,
sure.
And that's fine. But anyhow, when we started looking at that, we really realized it was important to include these elements. And actually we used this data. I presented a lot of this information to our faculty just to show them the impact that even discussing these ideas and having this more involved in our curriculum. But then we looked at really we need to support and create more opportunities for students to have international experiences. We also have done some collaboration. So we had some with some of our Native American tribes. And so we've had some students that have gone and participated in like Wyoming and Colorado. So again, they didn't need to leave the country, but we were still looking at a very different cultural group. And that had a great impact as well.
Thank you, Sharon. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you so much.